Andrew McCART, IFL TV, in association with MTK Global. I'm here in Belfast ahead of Mick Collins' fight, but with me, I've got the legendary Russ Anber.
Oh, nice. That means old, no? Legendary?
Well, you know, you've been in the game 40 years already, so you're up there, you're a legendary.
Yeah, I'm up there.
Where do we start?
You tell me. Whatever we already
last
heard.
Last week has been very interesting. Let's just jump straight into the deep end. Dillian Whyte, you were in Oscar Rivas' corner.
Yes, sir.
On the Dillian Whyte fight.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, a huge story that's come out of that fight is Dillian Whyte testing positive for an assay sample, but then going ahead with a hearing and being cleared to fight. I just want to know, that's what I got from Eddie Hearn out in Dallas. I just want to know where you stand on this and what your thoughts are on this whole saga, shall we speak?
Well, I mean, everything you said, Andrew, is just about true, except for the fact that there was a hearing held, as we know, and Eddie, rightfully said so. There was a hearing held. The question everyone seems to fail to ask is, why was there a hearing held, and why was he cleared to fight? So nobody else had a hearing, only Dillian had a hearing. And we all know the answer, but nobody really has come out and said what it is. The reason there was a hearing was because he tested positive for, banned substances, performance-enhancing drugs. I don't remember what the names were, and I don't care. Fine, I wouldn't know what it does. I don't know. It's not my field of expertise in it, but he tested positive. And I love when they say, well, there was only trace amounts. In every positive test, in every sport ever conducted, it's always trace amounts. There's never 14 ounces of it in your system. You know what I mean? It's always trace amounts. The fact is, it's in your system and it's not supposed to be there, and you used it as an advantage. You tested positive, you were called to a hearing, and that was withheld from the Rivas camp. And I think that's, to me, has to be the most shocking thing of all, and maybe it's not Eddie's place, that's probably, in a perfect world, does he have a legal, if not moral obligation to tell us, he's protecting his show, his guy, I get it, I'm in the boxing business, I get it. But the fact that the British Boxing Board of Control, and I won't even go into UCAD, because to me they're irrelevant as it comes to their role is not to protect the boxers, it's not to be involved in the sanctioning of the fight. That falls under the auspices of the British Boxing Board of Control. They're there to ensure fair play. They're there to ensure the safety of the fighters. It's on their turf, it's under their sanction. They are in essence the police of the event. And I just don't see how they made a decision at whatever time to say, you know what, let's not tell the Rivas camp. We had a hearing, but let's pretend it didn't happen and not tell them, and then, 6 guys sitting around the table said, hey, good idea, let's not tell anybody. I like that, and really, that's the best you could come up with? And then, couple that with what happened the following day, the following night at the fights, with what I've tagged as Glovegate now, is just a disaster.
There's so many stories to this one fight.
And the whole thing about it is they're all like underhanded, backroom, hiding, corrupt, wrongdoing things.
Have you ever seen anything
Never.
like this in boxing?
40 years I'm in this. And I challenge people. I did a podcast with somebody and challenged them. My mind might be going, and I got no more room on the hard drive up here, okay? So, I forget things. But I cannot remember any time a fight was so crowded in controversy. Just the test, the positive test post-fight would probably have happened, other fighters test positive. Or they test positive prior to a fight, and then the fight doesn't end up happening. Case in point, Canelo and Triple G. But I've never seen a hearing held, withhold that information from us, that he tested positive, then the glove situation, then the proof positive that it comes out that he did test positive. I've never seen so many things happen illegally concerning one fight in 40 years. This is the biggest.
It's quite amazing, but I want to just go back to the drug issue. Why do you think Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte's team didn't tell you about the hearing?
Well, I don't think, like I said, Andrew, I don't think, look, they have a show to protect. I'm not even sure on the timeline yet of when that hearing was held. I've heard everything from 48 to 24 hours before,
which was the Wednesday before the fight, so 3 days. That's what I'm hearing. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, I'm not sure when it was. Why didn't Eddie tell us? from a promoter's perspective, my guess is going to be the show must go on. We're going to tell him he tested positive. But hey, don't worry, get in the ring. Okay, but we want $5 million now to go, $5 million more to go in the ring, you know, instead of whatever. I'm just using that as an amount, right? I'm not speaking for Rivas, but I'm saying that's what his team would probably say. Oh yeah, well, we want more money, lots more money. So he doesn't want to pay. He doesn't want to pay. Okay, we'll cancel the show, and Lawrence Okoli is going to be the main event. Okay, you want to explain that to everybody at the O2 Arena, and then you have to start refunding. Explain that to Sky, the money that they've pushed forward with the fight. So I think there's a lot of financial reasons why he couldn't. It's the best. I'm just using logic and my years' experience to say why he didn't tell us. Dillian is definitely not going to be the one to tell us. It's not going to be the opponent that's going to call up and say, "Yo, fellas, what's happening? You know, tested positive, by the way. You still want to fight?" Not going to be him to do that. That's why I say I really don't hold any gripe or any beef with Eddie. And I tweeted him and said that to us. I got no beef with you on any of this. You know, he's the promoter. He's doing what he does, and he's right when he says, "I'm the promoter." Could he have? Yes, he could have, absolutely, and would have gained the respect of a lot of people in doing so. And there would have been a lot of respect, which we already had for him, as a promoter. But I get it. But I fail to understand the British Boxing Board of Control's position on this, the London base of them, because I got to tell you this, and I mean this sincerely. I've been involved in more fights in the UK probably than anywhere else in the world outside of my home or United States, right? And I have had nothing but absolute fantastic working relationship with everybody that I've met from the British Boxing Board of Control, whether it be in Manchester, Liverpool, or Sheffield. But London, twice I've been there with fighters, and twice I've had issues. Once with a referee, which I guess just a referee kind of call thing. I didn't like his call. And now this thing with whoever's in charge of the BFC in London, and it's not good, and I'm at a loss to explain why. You're a governing body. You're there to protect the fighters. That's your mandate. That's your role. It's important for you to do that, and you're a prestigious board. And they failed Rivas. They failed him on the drug test, and they were tantamount to glove tampering with the gloves.
I want to come on to the gloves, I really do, because it was an interesting story, because I was out in Dallas with Eddie, and it was just one of them things like, geez, another story to this already, huge story. But I want to say, what would you have done, or what would Team Rivas had done if Eddie had come to you a couple of days before the fight, a day before the fight, and said, listen, Whyte had a hearing, I don't think he would say that he tested positive. He said there was adverse amounts in his system, he had a hearing, but he was cleared to fight. Are you ready? Do you still want to fight? What would you have advised Rivas, or what do you think Team Rivas would have said?
Andrew, I wish I could be the one to answer that. I'm the corner man and cut man in the corner.
Okay, what would you have done if it was your fight?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. That's hard to say. I will tell you this way. I know what I'm going to tell you is 100% fact, and it's not hearsay. So you can't say, well, it's easy to say after the fact. When I was working with Deontay Wilder, we were in Sheffield, actually, finishing our training camp before heading to Russia to fight Povetkin. Literally, I think a day and a half before I was scheduled to fly, because my flight was a day before theirs. Literally a day and a half before I was scheduled to fly, we got the news that Povetkin had tested positive. Well, the decision was taken there that he wasn't going. And I went to say that we had full intention of going, and I did fly. I flew to Moscow, went there, and then had to change my ticket and fly back out. Instead of changing my ticket of depart, in case we did go, changing my ticket to depart, a day later, if we decide to go, I went anyways, and I sat in Moscow for 2 days waiting for their final decision, to which they made a decision not to go. I wasn't part of the discussion. They made that decision with their management team and their promoter not to go. So I don't know what Rivas would have done, but being in the previous situation, that's what happened. I suspect maybe the same could have happened with Rivas.
Eddie's come out and said that wait till all the facts come out before you cast judgment. Like, does that give you any sort of thing like, oh, this could have been something like already in the system from past, or do you think that he's actively took a steroid coming up to this fight? Because Eddie and Team Whyte are adamant that wait till the facts come out, wait till this comes out before you cast judgment. So
you're always going to be tarnished when you're a repeat offender, so that certainly doesn't serve him well. Eddie's right. I mean, I know there's lots of times when social media takes something and they run with it. The same way that some more credible media have suddenly taken to the bone that was thrown that said, I think it was Spencer Farrell. I heard that Rivas tested positive. You didn't hear shit. You didn't hear anything, okay? You're just now slinging something at the wall, hoping something sticks, and you're trying to assassinate his character, you know? So Eddie's not wrong when he says wait till the facts come out. And I'm not disputing that. I mean, the test came out. Do the B sample. Let's go. You know, no problem. Let's do it. Let's see what it says. Maybe there's something wrong. I don't know. But the gloves, I was there. There's no facts. There's no stories. There's no anything else. I was there. I was there through the entire process. So only God Himself could come and tell me I'm wrong. Nobody can tell me what went on with those gloves. I don't need any facts to come out. I was there.
I spoke to Eddie about the gloves out in Dallas. He said that when he got his hands wrapped, Dillian, he couldn't fit his hands in the gloves that was picked during the fighters' meeting. So they had to choose a third pair, which obviously Eddie and Dillian, Eddie said to me that they came to Oscar Rivas' team, which would probably have been you, and said, do you want to wear these gloves as well? And obviously Team Rivas said no, so...
Eddie's brilliant, there's just little bits of truth in that, you know, but when you string it all together, there's massive gaps missing in that.
I've only got a little bit of the story, but you said you were there and only...
And you know what, he's partially right, and that is the information, as he's saying it, I know that's the information that they're relaying back to him. In fairness, he wasn't there. He was ringside.
He was only getting reports coming back.
He wasn't there, and I did tell him that on a message I sent to him. You know, there's no beef with you, Eddie. You weren't there. I got it. And the things that he did say are the little bits of information that were provided to him.
Can you tell us from start to finish what happened?
Let's start with the first thing, which at the time didn't mean anything, but it ends up meaning something later. We go to the rules meeting, and the gloves, we had already shipped 2 pairs of gloves to Matchroom. They were put on the table. Whyte's gloves were on the table. We came in with some more gloves just in case. We always travel with extra gloves just in case the opponent says, hey, I want to wear those gloves. Oh, they really fit good. I want them. You know, so we had extra gloves. As soon as we walked in, the guy from the British Boxing Board of Control says, you can't bring those gloves here. Why not? He says those gloves have to be supplied by the promoter. I said, the promoter's right here, standing beside us. What's the difference who walked into the room with the bag? You know, that's being a little semantics, you know, that's a little crazy, you know, you're being a little, I mean, this is what we would have shipped to him. This is what he would have carried in and said here. So if he'd have carried them in, they'd be okay. He says, yes. I thought, that's a little weird, you know, now you're attacking my integrity. The gloves are sealed. You can weigh them. You can inspect them. If you're thinking we're doctoring or tampering with the gloves, we could do that prior to sending them to Matchroom. They don't open them. They get them sealed. They don't open them to check them. They give them to you to check, so you could check. So I thought that was a little childish, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter. They had their gloves. We had our gloves. They looked at our gloves, we looked at their gloves, they selected their gloves, we selected our gloves, we all signed off on them, shook hands with Mark Tibbs. As a matter of fact, Mark even rode in the van, going back to the hotel with us. We exchanged small talk, he was real nice, no issues at all whatsoever. Fast forward to the night of the fight. We're in the dressing room, we summon them over to watch the hand wrapping, we send our guy over to watch the hand wrapping. When our guy comes back, he says, the gloves that they selected yesterday are not in the room. There's another pair of gloves in the room. They want to use another pair of gloves. They didn't tell him. He just saw the gloves. I said, they can't do that. Yeah, they're doing that. So, of course, we contacted our promoter, Yvon Michel, told him what was going on. He goes and sees whoever he sees. I don't know who he talks to. Next thing you know, I'm in the corridor with Paul Reddy, Frank Whyte from Matchroom, a guy from the British Boxing Board of Control, no representative from Dillian Whyte's camp, no representative from the WBC, Bob Logis. He was not there either. It was just British Boxing Board of Control and Matchroom and Yvon Michel and Rivas' manager and Al Heyman's representative. And they start off by saying, look, it's a British Boxing Board of Control rule. He can choose any gloves on the night as long as they're provided by the promoter. Well, how do I know those are provided by the promoter? You're only telling me they're provided by the promoter. He could have walked in with them in his gym bag. We don't know. That's why we have the glove selection meeting the day before. So what's the point of having a glove selection meeting if you're just going to bring whatever gloves you want? He says, well, he's going to change his gloves. They didn't fit. There was something wrong. But Dillian said his gloves were given to somebody else. And the person they were given to was a guy named, and I hope I'm getting the name right, Ben Aziz?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But if you watch the fight, he's not wearing those gloves. He's wearing a pair of grunts. The gloves he selected, that Mark Tibbs selected for him, were a pair of Donardos. And they were more than big enough. Like, they were made big for a heavyweight's hand because we put our hand in them and we approved they were big enough. British Boxing Board of Control guy's holding a pair of gloves in his hand. And he says, these are the gloves he's using. He wants to use. I said, these are the ones he's using. Well, he says, not this exact pair, but same ones as this. That's why I don't want to see this then. I want to see the ones he's wearing. Oh, it's too late. I'm sorry. They're already on his hands. How are they on his hands? How could they possibly be on his? How did you need to make a glove switch, not tell us about it, put them on his hand, and then tell us we can't see them? Like, I don't understand this. Do you realize what you're saying? I don't want to see these gloves. He says, these are the gloves Rivas can use. I looked at the gloves. They look like bag mitts, okay? They look like small 8-ounce gloves. I said, Rivas wouldn't get 2 of his fingers into this glove, man. How's he going to get his hand in there? Rivas can't wear that glove. No, this isn't right. We want to see the gloves he's wearing. He's already taped up. Untape him. Oh, no, we can't do that. So now I'm thinking, something's wrong here. You know, the fact that you don't want to show me his gloves, like you didn't have those gloves at the glove selection. You refused us into carrying gloves into the room with our promoter, with, Matchroom right there with us, who could have easily carried the bag. And yet you tell me these were part of the gloves Matchroom has. They were not entire inventory. How do I know what Matchroom's inventory of gloves is, that they provide? We weren't allowed to see them. We weren't allowed to weigh them. Nothing. We weren't able to sign off on them. That is a precedent completely unheard of in the history of professional championship boxing in the world. Never has a fighter walked into a ring with gloves that have not been signed off and approved by the opponent. So they were put on his hands. Now, which means as well, Andrew, and I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here. I'm just telling you what's right. What potentially that means is the hand wrapping that we saw, we don't know if that's the same hand that went into the glove. We don't know if that's what we signed off on. We never saw them put the gloves on. So as far as I'm concerned, they could have done whatever they wanted to the hand wrap after our team member left the room, and they put on gloves that we never saw. Whether those gloves had any padding in them, had too much padding, had hard padding, had soft padding, whatever it had, we don't know. We never got to see the gloves. And how that in and of itself, and I don't care who you're partisan to, I don't care who you're friends with, I don't care who you're cheering for, who your guy is. Just in the name of fair play, in the name of honesty, you have 2 fighters going to beat 7 kinds of shit out of each other, and you're allowing somebody to go in with tampered gloves. And I say tampered because it is glove tampering that you're doing by not allowing us to see it. You're tampering with the procedure. So it's glove tampering and having assault on another guy on gloves that you're party to, that you're privy to, that you're allowing to happen, instead of taking the position as the board, hey, you didn't choose the gloves you were supposed to use. Let them see those gloves, because as a board member, as a commission or board, that's what I would have said. You don't want to wear the gloves that you selected. At first, I would have said you have to. Okay, so you have to. Those are the gloves you selected. But if you don't and you want to change them, you want to change gloves, they have to sign off. And if they don't like it, you're taking back the original ones you had. That would have been the right way to do it, instead of saying, oh no, he can change. He can wear whatever he wants. And you know what? You can't see them. Yeah, but I want to see them. Can't. It's a rule. We saw them. They're okay. Well, then, they're okay. Must be great then. No problem.
Why do you think they changed their gloves? I mean, I've heard, again, another story from Dillian Whyte saying that an undercard fighter took his gloves.
Unheard of. How incompetent.
But why do you think they changed their gloves in the 12th
Because
hour?
I don't think that those gloves that they wanted to wear would have ever been passed at the glove meeting, at the rules meeting. I don't think that glove, and it's hearsay. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, by looking at it in the ring, those gloves did not look like they were 10-ounce gloves. There was no way Rivas was going to get his hand in those gloves. And I don't think they would have, they knew that our team would have looked at those gloves and said, there is not a chance that we're going to wear that he's going to wear those gloves. And I think they were worried that's why on the table they put out a pair of Donardos, which were large 10-ounce glove, like you slid your hand in without even having to open the lace. Boom, you put your hand in, you fit with ample room, which I thought was, okay, they're choosing a bigger glove because he's got a big hand, and they're having problems getting into other gloves and they're going to use that. So I thought that was fair. The padding was good. They tried our gloves, padding was good. But that's the only thing I can think of. And the worst thing about it, again, and this is, again, I was talking about withholding of the information. If our guy who went in to watch the hand wrapping doesn't see this, we were still not going to be notified. We'd have walked into the ring expecting to see him wearing the goldish, I believe they were a gold color, silver color pair of gloves. We would have expected, and he would have had a pair of black flies on, which I knew were not the gloves he selected while we were in the ring. Now what do? Now there's a war now in the ring of us screaming, those aren't the gloves, those are the wrong gloves, take them off. And that would have been just another disaster. So luckily we caught it. So again, more of withholding information and not telling us. So.
What's your image of the British boxing body control now?
Well, I don't want to taint paint them all with the same brush, because like I said, Robert Smith has been more than fair in any of the dealings I've had with them. We've discussed protocol with boxing. We've traveled. We've been away together at different fights in America. I mean, Robert, I wish he'd have been there. I could never believe in a million years that Robert would have acted this way. I don't believe that for 1 second. And the reason I say that was because there was an incident when I believe Anthony Crawler fought Dan Jordan.
Was it Dawes Perez?
No, Jordan. It was a fight that was in Manchester, just before he fought Crawler. They had they were going to Crawler was going to use DiNardo gloves. And the other gentlemen that they were going to fight were going to use, I think, Grant gloves. But when they picked up the DiNardos, they saw that there was no padding in the glove. And Joe argued, saying, well, these are commission-approved gloves. Well, and at the time they were. Robert Smith looked at them, saw that there was no padding in the glove, like it was literally empty. He pulled them off the table and said no. And he called his office and said, take them off the list. So I think he would do the right thing. He didn't say, well, too bad, you got to use them. And then they both ended up wearing Grant model gloves. They had those and they both. So what's my impression? They've always been great. All the inspectors I've dealt with in Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield, never had an issue with. I don't know if it's a separate office or how they operate in London, but boy.
It's all UK-wide. It's not like America where you've got New York State, Las Vegas.
Well, I knew nobody there
so
in London. Nobody. I knew nobody. I know all the other people in all the other towns we've been. I see the same people all the time. Knew nobody in London. Nobody. And how they handled it was wrong. So I think they set a very, very dangerous precedent in what they did. With withholding the information, things that they were party to. That's what makes it even worse. Like if they had the information withheld from them, what can they do? But they were privy to that information. Withholding the fact that they held a hearing for Dillian and not telling us, no, you can't see the gloves. I said, sir, do you realize what you're saying? Do you realize what you're saying, that you're going to allow a guy to go into the ring using gloves that we've never inspected? Do you realize what that means? And he didn't. It didn't seem like it fazed him one bit, and that's dangerous. I mean, God rest his soul, Maxim Dadashev fell into the coma the day before. Passed a few days later. God forbid something would have happened to Rivas under these very same conditions.
It's not worth thinking about, is it?
It's awful, and I mean, it would have bankrupt the boxing in Britain if that would have happened, because right now they're in. To me, I can't see anything that's been ever done that's been more illegal, if you will, than what's gone on here in this one fight.
I've got to ask you, you come across a very diplomatic man, so I probably will get a diplomatic answer here, but
I have no. But even if I'm being diplomatic, I'm telling you the truth as it happened.
I'm going to ask you a question. Like Eddie Hearn gets a lot of the blame because obviously he's an outspoken promoter. So when this happened, Eddie Hearn got the blame straight off the bat. Maybe a little bit of the boxing body control, but who do you feel is to blame? UCAD, the board, Eddie Hearn, Team Whyte? Who's to blame in all this?
When you say blame, when you say blame, are you saying legally or morally? Because there's
both.
Well, legally, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know legally who's to blame for what. Using common sense, using 40 years experience in the game, knowing who was supposed to be protecting the fighters, you know, it has to be the British Boxing Board of Control. This ultimately lay at their feet. You know, this is their call. They're there for that. You know, a fighter, when fighters go from out of town, go anywhere to fight, their only hope of, you know, to get paid, to make sure the fighters don't, the promoter doesn't screw them by not paying them, or whatever, to make sure they're taken care of, is the commissions, the athletic commissions, the Board of Control. I feel that that's important. Their obligation is to protect both fighters. They're supposed to be transparent. They're not supposed to have a partisan side. They're not supposed to be. Now they might want the British guy to win, you know, because that's good for business, which is okay. That's fine. But when it comes to the protocol and the rules, you have to be there. You can't sweep stuff under the rug. That's just wrong, you know. And like I said, no, if they didn't know, they'd have been better off not having gone to that meeting. Say, no, we don't want to know about it, and then they could have said, oh man, we didn't know, you know. The gloves, they should have said, no, either walk away from it. But once they became involved in it, for them, not anybody else, but it wasn't even the Whyte camp who said no. If the British Boxing Board of Control told me, no, you're not looking at the gloves. What? I couldn't believe that I was hearing that. Like I'm not usually at a loss for words. I was at a loss for words. I didn't know. He threw me with that. You know, that you're the governing body and you're saying no. You're going to allow a guy to go into the ring with gloves we can't use. Imagine any possible scenario you want of any matchroom fighter or British fighter fighting abroad, and the same thing would happen. You know, Andy Ruiz says, oh, you know those gloves I selected the day before? Nah, we're not using them. We got another pair. But you can't see them. Oh, Eddie would have said, oh, yeah, no problem, sure. Never would have happened. Yeah. You know, so, and this is not about taking sides. I'm in boxing for 40 years. I want this for everybody. I want the protection for all fighters, not just for one guy, not just for Rivas. For everybody should have the same protection. You at least look to that. You know, don't mess with the hand wraps. Don't mess with the gloves. Protect the fighters. Make sure that they are no cheating stuff. I hate cheating stuff for anybody. Fight, you're gonna get determined in the ring who's gonna win. Stop cheating. I hate that. So that's. I mean, I don't have to not be diplomatic. Those are just the facts. They're as unbelievable as it sounds. You know. The other question that people also fail to realize, and I don't know how it is here, but there is an insurance taken out on a fighter, right? What would have happened if, God forbid, something happened to Rivas? Would insurance have paid out if they found out that UCAT and British Boxing Board of Control knew that the opponent going into the ring tested positive and something serious happened to, would he have been protected? Would he have still gotten his insurance?
Interesting question. Something I can't answer.
Does Whyte get paid? Have you heard anything about him getting paid? Should he be paid for his fight? With now the WBC, you know, potentially going to reverse the decision. They have him under suspension, waiting the opening of the B sample, blah, blah, blah. Do you agree with the WBC stance on this? The WBC released something yesterday saying that they have withdrawn recognition of the fight. That'd be a no contest? They didn't say they're changing, they're waiting further investigation. They can't jump to this. Obviously, they have protocol that they have to follow. They did say Team Whyte can prove, give evidence. Oh yeah, at some point, they're whatever procedure, they're going to go through the procedure that they have to go through. But right now, effective immediately, he has been withdrawn recognition as the interim champion and the mandatory challenger. So that's been taken off. It doesn't mean that the result has yet been changed, which when it comes back positive and when they do take it away, it stands to reason that you have to change the decision. It can't stand, you know, under an illegal. Does that mean Rivas becomes mandatory? I don't know. It would make sense that he would, you know, but that's going to be for the WBC again to respond. But the question is, does Whyte get paid? You know, is he supposed to be paid his money, whatever amount he's making? Is he supposed to be paid? Would the insurance have covered if something went wrong? Mm-hmm. Because now you've withheld. You know how insurance companies can be, right? Yeah, of course, yeah. I'm not a smoker. You die of lung cancer, they're going to find 20 people who said they saw you smoking in a bar, right? You know, because they don't want to pay out. So if something happened, you know, is the insurance company now going to say, hey, wait a minute, you wanted us to insure somebody against somebody that tested positive? You withheld that information for us that he's fighting a guy who was taking performance-enhancing drugs, and they might have said we're not paying. So imagine that. Of course, like I said before, I was out in Dallas last week, and
Bob Arum was out there. He voiced his concerns with the Lomachenko fight. You've worked with Lomachenko. Do you share the same concerns with Lomachenko fight in London after all this?
Prior to the decision being announced.
I just got my SIM card ran out there, so I'll say it again.
Yeah.
I don't know if the question got answered, caught up on the camera.
No problem.
Bob Arum out in Dallas said that he has some concerns with Lomachenko fighting in London after all this Dillian Whyte controversy.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Well, it's funny you say that, and I mean, this has nothing to do with diplomacy or anything. I'm just going to tell you the truth. As soon as the fight was over, I walked over to where Lomachenko and Usyk were sitting, because they were just to the right of me. And you know, they're very, very good, dear friends of mine. I walked right over to them, and I told them exactly what happened with the gloves. So I told them right away. So I told them, and I told Egis Klimas, the manager, right away what happened. So they were aware. So that the gloves got switched and everything, just to make them aware. You know. So of course you're going to come in here now with more concerns about this kind of stuff. You know, and it's sad because I swear to God, and you can ask Egis Klimas this, when we spoke about the possibility of Usyk or Loma fighting in the UK, I said to him, Egis, take it in the UK. Don't worry. I know all the guys there. They're good guys. The British Boxing Control Board is a good board. Take the fight. You have no worries. Never having, of course, experienced London, but Liverpool, Manchester, and Sheffield have always been $1 million. They've been just great. And I assured the Lomachenko people that they'd have no issues in the UK.
So, I'm going to ask, you're in Belfast. Away from everything that's happened in that, we'll get some good questions now. You're in Belfast. What brings you here?
Well, I'm happy to be here with Team Conlon for this event, which is great. Yeah. And it's my first, in all the places I've traveled, and I just recently hit 1 million miles in the air, okay? And I've never been to Ireland. So this was great that I'm so thrilled to be here, and it was wonderful.
Sunshine as well, which is strange.
Sunshine, and I found sunshine yesterday when they took me to the snooker club, so I'm happy.
You're a keen snooker player,
yeah, it don't rain in the snooker club, so
and
it's
you're
fine.
a magician as well, huh?
Yeah, I like to dabble in magic, do some...
Can you do anything now? Can you do anything now? Or?
I could do something right now. You want to do something right now? You sure? I'll do a quick one for you. Only if you've got a quick memory. You got a good memory?
Yeah, I've got a good memory. Yeah.
If you've got a good memory,
a deck of cards. Look at that.
would you be able to remember? Would you be able to remember 2 cards?
Of course, yes.
All right. So let's
see if I can get this.
Let's see if we can. I'll do this one for you. The 4 aces, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to need your hand, though. Are you going to be able to help me? Just one hand is for now is good. Okay, so I need you to remember 2 cards, okay? First one, ace of spades, okay?
Yep.
Place it here. The second one, now this is the most important one I want you to remember, ace of clubs, and I'm going to stick it underneath. Now take your other hand and cover these. Now, all you've got to do is tell me, is the ace of clubs on the top or on the bottom?
Bottom.
On the bottom. If I snap my fingers and bring them back to the top, would that be impressive?
Of course it would, yeah.
Wouldn't be bad. If I snapped it and bring it back to the bottom, would that be equally as impressive?
Okay, sorry.
You wouldn't have known if it really moved, right? That's right, it wouldn't. So if I simply took them and switched them and put them here, would that be impressive?
Yes.
Yeah, you can look at what you're holding there.
See that? It's on film as well. You are a real magician. Russ, I've got to say, thank you to this 5PL TV. Like, you gave us an insightful view of what happened.
I've just told you the truth, Andrew. I swear to God, I'm not trying to embellish anything. I'm just telling you the truth of what happened, and it pains me that it had to happen that way.
Well, like I say, thanks for your time. You've given us some insight on what happened on Team Leaders Aside, which is always good to know. Again, thank you to this 5PL TV, and hopefully catch you on Fight Night.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Ross, one question I forgot to ask was, you're quite about this glove issue with Dillian Whyte. I forgot to ask, did you inspect the glove after the fight?
No, they refused it. And normally, protocol for a WBC fight is that they cut off the gloves and the hand wraps to inspect. And if you watch the video of the fight, you'll see he keeps those gloves on the entire time until he goes back into the dressing room area. So nobody ever inspects those gloves, which is why I said to you, we don't know what happened with the hand wraps. We don't know if the hand wraps under that glove are the same hand wrap that we witnessed. We don't know if anything was added before or after. Nobody inspected that. And that's criminal in and of itself. And to me, while I know, PEDs are very dangerous and very bad, to me as a fight guy, the ultimate sin in boxing is tampering with the hands and the gloves. To me, there is no greater sin than that when you doctor the hands or gloves. Do I know they did something? No, I don't. Do I not know they did something? No, I don't know that either, because they never let us see it. They never let us see it. And that, to me, I don't. As a fight guy, you can't be a real fight guy and live with yourself knowing that you did that. You're not a fight guy if you did that.
Well, like I said before, thanks for this Firefield TV.
Oh, my pleasure, brother.
My pleasure to meet you for the first time.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.